We gather in the cosmos bright. Stars and ships take flight tonight. In the void where dreams do play. Soul citizens lead the way. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Starry roads and endless skies. Soul citizens we rise. Charting courses never lost. Together the verses crossed. Squadrons call on the horizon. Battles fought, our hearts aren't frightened. In our ships we face the dawn. Soul citizens carry on. Oh, planets spin and light years fly. Boundless space where hopes reside. Motherhood in every star. Soul citizens, here we are. Borders fade in nebula's light. Unknown worlds will chart tonight. Through the galaxy we soar. Endless journeys at our core. Starry roads and endless skies. Soul citizens we rise. Charting courses never lost. Together the verses cross.
Hey, greetings. Welcome back to Soul Citizens. I am GriffinGamingRPG, and we're happy to be back today. Today is June the 22nd. Boy, we're almost halfway through the year. Well, we are halfway through the year, almost one more week. But we're happy to be here with you, and I am joined today with some of the great folks from the Soul Citizens stream team. I'm here with, I guess we'll start with to my right, the one and the only fastcart FC. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm checking my chat. I'm checking my calendar to see whether or not summer starts yesterday or next month. I'm trying to figure it out. I wanted to say a happy solstice, but I haven't figure out which month it starts. So,
It is
hi everyone.
started.
Hope everyone's doing well.
Good. Glad to hear that. Is it warm where you are?
It is 89 and went up to 94.
Okay, that's not too bad. You're not
Fahrenheit.
Oh, Fahrenheit. There you go. Okay. Next up, next to me, to my left, is the one and the only. Haven't seen him in a little while, but happy to have him back with us. Kelosal. How are you, buddy?
Doing good. I got one question for those parents. Have you got your kids yet?
Oh Lord, yeah. Don't pay attention to his jubilant smile that he's been released from prison from being a school teacher. So he's finally on break. So he's happy to send your kids back to you.
Kids.
Yeah. What is the background behind you? Usually, you either have your bear up there, or you have the Rays win or something.
We got a bear.
Is that what it is? I don't know what that is back there.
Yeah, I got my road dog, but the color and stuff like that, you know.
The psychedelic. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
okay, that's cool. All right, fair enough. I'm glad it's not red and yellow. That would mean like Burger King or Wendy's. I'd be thinking about food, so that's fine. Okay. And last but not least,
I don't think about food.
Yeah, I know. Last but not least, the one and the only Mr. RSI himself, the ambassador. SeriousFun. How are you, man?
Good, I'm good. That background there is what Hurston people see when they're trying to get some decent air to breathe, and they choking out. It's the last thing they see before they fall out. That's what happens.
Is that it? Is the swirl? They start passing out.
But when you said when Kelosal said where your children at, that reminded me of that old thing. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? But that's
Yeah,
what we
that's
grew
what
up
I
with. Yeah,
There you
that's
go.
what we grew
That's
up
right.
with.
There you
So
go.
9 o'clock. 9 o'clock from my area.
Oh
This is what you
God!
see.
Now
This is
he's
what you
got
see
the
when
Hurston
when you're
Gold up.
making
Oh
monetary
God!
stuff. That's it.
Now he's got the Hurston Gold up. Now you shouldn't have got him started.
Those who inquire wealth know what I'm
Oh
talking about.
God,
Along with him.
Thracazogs, how are you? Glad to have you here. And as always, thank you for the resub, my friend. 44 months. You're approaching 4 years. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Thracazogs. Yeah, so thanks you to everybody who's here. I see Captain Jones is out there. New Soul Sounds is out there. Who else is out there? Admiral Kusanagi. Admiral Kusanagi. Oh my God, he left the world of Scum to join us today. Pops in Space. Danger Hobo.
Togi.
Yeah, Togi. Yeah, Togi's here. Sinful Strive. Hey, Sinful Strive. So good to see you. Vavrick. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you guys for being here with us today. We
CC
really
Creator.
appreciate it. Creators out there hiding. Okay, cool. All right. Got a nice little crowd here to get us started today. Zodaside, what's up? What's up? What's up? Yes, you caught the beginning. You're right here at the beginning, finally, Zodaside. You made it. Blackwater Goat. Hey, what's up? BWG. I always run the Blackwater Goat on everybody's stream. He's all over the place. Okay, so today, the title of our show today is High or Buy, and we cannot wait to see what you all have to say. Citizen Joel, welcome, welcome, welcome. And Ninja's here. Oh, gosh, everybody's here. All right, we want to see, when you guys check in, the name of the show is called High or Buy, and it has to do with, like, what type of player are you in Star Citizen? Now, we're going to keep this in relation to Star Citizen because, you know, people have different playing styles in different games. But in Star Citizen, are you the type of person that's like, hey, how are you? You know, are you the type of person like, bye, that's it. All right. That's going to be kind of the different categories we're going to be talking about today. But we're going to examine even beyond that, everything from high to buy and everything in between. And so our panelists are also going to share with you what type of player they are, or maybe under what type of circumstance, or maybe even why they are the type of player they are. So we're going to be looking to see what you guys have to say also. So if we hit a category that's you, just feel free to say me. Okay, let us know that that is you. All right. And then we'll see what goes on there. Zodaside said, my graphics card died. All the games I play now are in the game, but might have to get the GPU to play Star Citizen. Oh, yeah, that sucks. Yeah, what kind of graphics card did you have? I'm curious.
It seems like a bunch of us been having hardware issues. I have a monitor. You had your
my
your
cooling,
AIO.
the radiator. Yeah, you had a 3080 and it died. Oh, that sucks. That's not old. That's kind of weird, man. That sucks. Well,
They
the
don't
good,
make it like it
3090,
used to.
and now you got me scared. So let me just pay attention. Let me
yeah,
turn up this AC.
yeah. Well, Zodaside,
You might-
the good thing is that the new cards now are priced better. So hopefully you can get you a good deal on something. This gives you the excuse for the upgrade, right? But I know you hate to have to drop some money if you don't have to. So I get it.
Especially before Vegas.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. We've got a lot of topics here and a lot of good conversation set up for you folks. So hopefully you guys will enjoy the show today. I did not do my due diligence and plug these into my Stream Deck correctly, so I'm going to have to manually change things. So I'm going to hopefully not screw up any of these. And let's start with our very first one. Boom. Let's talk about this as a subject, guys. Okay. Yesterday, Fastcart and I were over with Paul Shelley at the Astro Pub, and the conversation was about Death of a Spaceman and the idea of dying in the game. And one of the things that we all know and we've talked about for a while is that right now, death is not meaningful, or maybe some people will say life isn't meaningful in the game right now. But what are your feelings right now? And you guys have been playing the game for quite a while. So this attitude of life ain't worth 2 cents, or life isn't meaningful, or death isn't meaningful. How do you aspire, so how we're playing the game now? How does that affect you when you're doing gameplay? And I'm going to start out with Sirius, that you were the last one I introduced. I'll start with you. How does it affect you in the game?
Well, this is less life ain't worth 2 cents than really systems for punishment and accountability ain't worth 2 cents, right? Or they're incomplete or fundamentally exploitable, right? So this is about weak enforcement of crime stats, weak enforcement of death consequences, weak enforcement of insurance mechanics. And as a result of that, the way that I want to play is informed by the fact that I'm surrounded by folks who may be thinking this way. And so, you have to employ a bit of game theory.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, it is context dependent, right? So if I just jump in a ship and I'm going out, I might take more of a chance
Okay.
to challenge the life ain't worth 2 cents framework.
Mm-hmm.
If I am doing something that I think is important or essential, like last night, my goal was to get that Argo backpack back
Mm-hmm.
to my main hangar.
Right.
Because I missed that Argo backpack.
Right.
And I would be a little bit more like other people's life ain't worth 2 cents to make sure that got done. Right. So I recognize that in me.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, for me, this is the reckless player, the troll, the griefer, and it's the player that, knowing that these mechanics and these crime stats and these sandbox punishment systems are weak, goes out willing to, reckless with their own lives because things matter less right now.
Okay.
Right.
That's fair. That's fair. Kelosal, how about you? Do you worry about your life in the game? Do you try to keep your life alive? I know, like, one point you were like doing a whole thing with living on the Carrack and trying to see how long you could stay out there, or when you die, it didn't really make too much of a difference for you. You just kind of start all over again. You don't really feel anything.
Yeah, well, first of all, I hope those people didn't talk. This title is not predicative of those people who talk to AI. That's number one. Number two, to add what Sirius said, I would I would add those people who also have multiple accounts dealing with this piece, because they may just jump often on the accounts they least worry about if this was the case.
Mm-hmm.
And then do some things, or maybe do things that they probably wouldn't do with their primary account.
Mm.
And then so yeah, this could take into effect on that one. Considering the state of the game right now,
Mm-hmm.
I really don't even care.
Right.
I mean, I have tried at some points to go ahead and try to jump into Carrack, and then try to just live life out like if I was in Star Trek Next Generation, right? I'm on the Enterprise, and I'm out in deep space, and I only come back to dry dock whenever I want to go ahead and go to Rise, though, or something like that. Or, but the point is that at this point in time right now within the game, life ain't worth 2 cents.
Okay.
You usually get some of your things back if they're personal things that you have, subscriber gear, things like that. The people that's going to worry most about it are those people who are really invested at improving their reputation, doing the missions, thinking that they're probably going to retain or attain some of those things. And all of a sudden
it's gone.
So yeah, it's gone. So I try, and I think about that piece because I'm also an Evocati person. So it's, how tentative that could be in terms of not only just gameplay, but testing out the game, and how difficult it can be when you're testing all the raw bugs. So when the game comes into fruition and it has all of its systems and mechanics, I'll probably worry more about it than when it comes to Death of a Spaceman. But as of right now, it's pretty much gun ho.
Okay, got you. FC, how about you? Is your life worth 2 cents in the universe? Do you feel like it has value, or do you think other people's lives have value, or just no repercussions for anything?
Well, for me, people may have, I told it a lot, but I'm trying to keep myself from out of the game right now, because using alpha UVC instead of UVC, so stuff don't really, I don't want to say matter, because the communication and the social dynamics, those matter. But as far as achievements or value or stuff that you get in the game, those don't really have value, at least for me, because those can get reset anytime by CIG whenever they need a reset.
Okay.
So I'm afraid, like, I've only, like, I play a bunch of MMOs in my life. I played Final Fantasy 11 for 4 years, played Eve Online for 4 years, played The Old Republic for 4 years. But then there's other games like Final Fantasy 14, Star Trek Online, and Lord of the Rings Online. I only played those for 2 months.
Okay.
So MMOs tend to have a shelf life for me. So I don't know when that button or that time is going to suffer me when it comes to Star Citizen. So I'm trying not to get too involved, but it is good for me to hang out with those citizens so I learn some of the things, the basics for Star Citizen. So I'll be ready for that when 1.0 comes out. But I'm trying not to get too attached. So
Yeah.
for me, some stuff isn't worth 2 cents, but the communication and the hanging out and stuff like that, those are invaluable.
Okay. So let me throw a question to you guys, because I kind of coined this phrase for a reason when I said life ain't worth 2 cents. I think the default to this is that people automatically think I'm talking about your game life, your character. But what about your time? Is it worth it then? If you went in the game to do something and something happens that interrupts it in some form, do you feel like it's wasted time? Do you feel like that there's some value?
Well, there's always value in trying to help a game in development.
I get that.
I think that's where people have to understand. I see where you're going with this,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess I'm taking it to the state of where the game is right now.
Okay, gotcha.
Right, because I don't want people to get so psychologically in tune with the game to where it is right now, to all of a sudden they just give up. Right, I spent I got hundreds of hours in this game, blah blah blah. They keep changing things, and such and such. I'm just over it. I spent all my time and blah 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 in an alpha build. Right, so that's why I mean, there are people out there right now. You got other streamers and other gamers. You got people like Cowley and things like that. They test all these other games that are going out there right now. Games like Chronos Odyssey, and they spend hundreds of hours in a developmental phase, or things like that, or they spend hundreds of hours after the game has come out. But you try not to spend that much time, or at least somewhere close to that much time, when you're in a developmental phase, because you are going to burn yourself out, and that's when time becomes an issue. And now your life, now you may sit there and say, well, I spent all this time, all the stuff that I've done ain't worth what I'm doing right now, and I've wasted all my time in an alpha developmental build. So I always tell people to look at where they are and govern themselves or pace themselves according to where the development stage of the game is.
So what is the difference between you? And I'm throwing this back to you still. What's the difference between an Evocati person that voluntarily chooses to play the game in a broken state? I mean, I know what the difference is, but I'm saying, how do you keep from getting burned out? Like, I've never heard an Evocati person tell me, I'm sick of testing this game, I'm blah, 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 blah. And they kick me off Evocati. I don't want to be there anymore. But in an alpha state, matter of fact, you're in a funkier state than the alpha state. But I mean, you guys are in a bad state when you get an Evocati. But is that part of the problem too? Is that players, because we've talked about the psychology. Sometimes you can play Star Citizen and it feels good. It feels ready. It feels playable, right? And you have a great gaming experience in it, or had a great day or a great night playing it. And then the next time you play it, it just collapses on you, right? And is that where the burnout comes from? Is it because today I had a good experience and tomorrow I had a horrible experience over and over and over and over and over again? Is it because I have a horrible experience every time I play the game? And that's what I'm asking about when we say life ain't worth 2 cents. I'm saying life in the sense of your life, vested time, sitting behind a computer, playing a game, following it, reading stuff. Is that true? That life ain't worth 2 cents?
Well, it could be all of the above on what all the examples that you gave. It could be all of the above.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of Evocati folks realize what their role is.
Okay.
It's no different. It's no different than, look, I'm in a profession where I love, but we know it's not the most respected. Plain and simple. It's underpaid. There's a lot of problems that keep coming to us, and they want us to make gold out of SHIT. And and we do as best as we can with the wonderful kids that we get and that we have. I think Evocati folks realize and understand that the game is there to help them fix the broken parts, and we get it at its raw state. So we don't. A lot of us, at least me, I'll speak for myself. I don't go in with the intention of, I'm going to be in for 2 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, and I'm having a wonderful time. I go in there with okay, this is what they want us to test. So I'm gonna test this piece, and then if I go ahead and see all the bits that needs to be fixed and things like that, I'll try to report as best as I can, knowing that other people probably have already reported it before I did. And then I go ahead and jump off. And once that's done and that's implemented and that's passed out to the rest of everybody else, with the game still being in alpha, I realized that, okay, I may have had a hand in helping out, at least get the game out in terms of, looking for it or working on the pieces that they want us to break or want us to, help try to solve the problems for them and things like that. And once it's put out, a lot of times I don't even go in live.
And I was going to say, because you don't, I've known you not to go in live because you said I've had my fill.
Yeah, I've had my feel. Enjoy it, guys. You guys got it at a better state than what it was when we had it. So I see all these people complain about it, and I'm like, boy, but if you only can imagine, as soon as you log in, you kick right back out. As soon as you get to a character build, you kick right back out. As soon as you get a game, your FPS drops to 3 or 4 or 5. You can't even fix it, do this and that stuff. The state of where Evocati is versus where live is completely drastically different. So you have to be able to, you should be aware, if that, for lack of a better word, you should be aware of what you're getting into and the state of the build that you're getting into, and be contributors in that, and criticize, but be constructive, be critical, instead of just being negative and nasty.
FC. I'll just, because I already asked you guys the main question. Is there anything you guys want to say in relation to? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next one. You good? Serious? You good?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I'd add is, a lot of this, where you sit on the types of questions you're asking depends on where you stand, Griff. It's like, I don't think about logged time with Star Citizen the way that I think about logged time with other games, the way that fastcart described his other experiences, right? I think about that way with Elite Dangerous, for example. I think about it in terms of the hours I've logged.
Yeah.
And with Star Citizen, I tend to think about it in terms of how present was I in the world.
Okay.
Right. So it's sort of lived presence versus logged time. Right. Was I able to exhibit a certain identity in the game? Right. If I die, did my death had meaning versus death being a penalty, right? And as the game gets to a place where, to Fastcart's point,
Papadopoulos, thank you so much for the raid. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
As always, we're going to be reaching out to you too. We got your message. Sirius told me he got in touch with you, so we're going to be setting up something real soon. And thank you, Raiders, for joining us. Yeah. Good to have you here. We're talking, our title of our show today is High and By, talking about what type of player are you in Star Citizen? Are you the greeter, or are you the what did I say? The greeter or the beater? Which one are you in the game? That's what we're talking about today. Okay, Sirius, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. It's just, Kelosal talked about making a ship a home, right? That's building a life versus just building a loadout, right? So, I was going to say, as the game becomes less and less buggy, and to Fastcart's point, once we shift from Alpha UEC to UEC, I think you're going to see moments of real caution from players, because going out, they won't be, what happens to them will be their fault, and they will not be able to blame the game, right? And what they lose will be real in the game, right? And so we're not there yet, but I think that's coming. That's all I wanted to add.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go on to the next one then here. Live and let live. The player that comes into the universe, is this a realistic thing to be like, you leave me alone, I'll leave you alone. We're passing 2 ships in the night, no problems. Have you experienced that before? Like, was there that time when you really thought somebody was going to probably take you out, and maybe all they did was wave and keep going, or maybe they were carrying their box and you're kind of keeping your eye on them, but they kept going? But anybody wants to jump in on this and tell me about their experience on that, or have you had maybe that wasn't your experience? But I'm curious, have you run into that situation? Yeah, FC.
I wish this was a thing in Star Citizen, but I don't think it will be, or it'll be really. I don't want to say really rare, but when you meet someone and you give them that eye and you're like, hey, what's up? We good? Are you gonna let me pass, or are we gonna have some beef on what's gonna happen? It's gonna be interesting. Those first 10 few seconds meeting. For me, I prefer to be the pacifist. That's typically my preferred gameplay, but I know that's not realistic depending on where you are. That's why I keep my butt in terror.
Okay.
Or maybe even Soul or Castro
Okay.
when that becomes available.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not an anxious person, but you know, being in pyro kind of stressed me out.
Really? That's interesting. See, that's interesting, Fesca, because I was sharing this yesterday that, you know, before Pyro came, there was this communal hype of lawlessness, being that there was just going to be constant bad stuff going on all the time. And I've talked to plenty of people who told me that their experience in Pyro, other than in the very beginning, you know, when everybody kind of rushes in, but that plenty of people have been in Pyro and had very few encounters, maybe when they go to certain hotspots, right, where we know something's going on. Right. But in general, the terror that people thought was going to be existing, now mind you, Pyro is not completely built out yet, right? We don't have all the stuff with the gangs and the AI and reputation fully running either. But it has not been the horror show that a lot of people, I think, were expecting. But it is interesting that you would say that. Dirk said something here that was interesting. He says, I wish more people would try to work together instead of kill on sight, KOS. I always end up dying trying to be the nice guy. Serious, I'm going to go to you. Have you tried to be the nice guy? Have you extended your palm branch to people and said, how are you? What can I do to help you in this universe? Or had someone done that to you, for that matter?
Yeah, this is my play style for the most part, right?
Okay.
And I try to pay attention to how often live and let live actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's over 50% of the time,
mm-hmm.
right? No matter where I am,
mm-hmm.
right? So, you know, even the other night we were coming down to Hathor. There was a ship in the distance taking off.
Mm-hmm.
That ship didn't turn around and go, let me just kill those people because they're there. It
mm-hmm.
went about their business, right? The first few times I was in Pyro, I went down to a settlement, people were taking off. Everybody looks to see how you're going to act. You're looking to see how they're going to act. You know,
right.
We've got some cues
mm-hmm.
visually and sound wise in the game for whether we're being targeted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people just move along, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a little under half the time, you know, somebody is looking to occupy space, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you go inside a bunker and you see and hear that your ship got blown up.
Mm-hmm.
That's because a group has come to occupy that space,
mm-hmm.
right? And so I don't even take it personal. You know, they've come to
right.
Anybody that's there, they're coming to do a certain thing, and they're doing their role play,
right?
But most of the time, it is pretty straightforward, and people are most of the time trying to do that. Now, the other thing I'll add is that there is a development gap. There are few systems to reward peaceful and collaborative behavior. So to Dirk's point, you know, we need systems to reward peaceful and collaborative behavior. We need the ability to scan somebody. I scan somebody I see as fastcart, I see as a bad merchantman, and I can give him some sort of ranking just for acting right. Right? That people with the right scanning ability or whatever can see, you know. And certainly those systems to reward peaceful and collaborative behavior are shallow compared to combat, right? Like everything right now. So
yeah. Kelosal, I got a question for you. When it comes to the game, as I was mentioning a few minutes ago, there are some places you can go in the game and right? It's a hotspot, whether it's a Hathor, whether it's the new locations that have been put on Pyro 4 and Pyro 1. Sometimes even some of the junkyards, you kind of knew if you went to those areas, you kind of knew what to expect. You know, you kind of had, all your antenna were out, right? When you roll into those places. But what happens when you roll into those places that is the unexpected, right? Because there are certain mechanics that aren't in the game right now. What happens when you just go someplace because you just, want to go buy something, and, do you still have your guard up when you go to those places? Do you kind of like, this guy's gonna probably shoot me, let me shoot him first? Or do you kind of give it, like, your hands on the pistol, but you haven't drawn it yet, Or are you pretty much not thinking about it? Because normally in this particular place, stuff don't kick off. Which one do you kind of fall into?
Well, I have learned to shoot first and beg for forgiveness later.
Okay.
Because and those are my days going back to WoW.
Okay.
You know, I mean, you know, you go there for. I'm not saying that Colossus like this. Don't get me wrong, folks. Colossus gets that way when you shoot him the first time if he's in the game that day, for no provocation whatsoever. You know, if I'm going out there and I'm like, "Hey, how you doing?" Friendly, pow. That's it. I would sit there and say, "I'm done." That's it. You got one time only. Colossus gonna be a butt the entire game through that entire day. So I will shoot first and beg for forgiveness later. If I've been shot by anybody in the verse, it doesn't matter who it is. I've been known to shoot some friends by accident. By accident, either they didn't have a pip or they were sitting in seats, Nihilus, and they didn't log off or things like that and so forth. But you know, it's just you get to a point where you may feel like, once again, it goes back to your life ain't worth 2 cents, right? You get to that point to where I don't have time to deal with other people's BS.
Okay.
On whatever state that they're in.
Okay.
So if you're going there and you like, okay, I got this much time to do this, my mindset, I got to go ahead and make sure I get this. I'm with my friends, here, blah blah blah. And some people and the other people come in there. Sometimes you may be at that moment to where you're like, pa 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 pa, and then you just look at them, you role play. I'm sorry, dude, I had to do this. Didn't know what state of mind you were at. Yeah. I've seen some people, you know, lift people up. You know, Medipen, put them up, and they're like, I'm sorry, blah 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 blah, and then they get shot anyways, and it's a doubly wrong thing, right? So it all depends on the situation that I'm in. About 70% of the time, I'm passive, about 70%. But once you get me that's one time,
that's it.
Is it. I'm done for that entire day.
I hear you. Okay.
Get one shot.
All right. Let's hit this next one first here. Live and Let Die. This is the defender. Yeah, this is the person who, you know, they are 50-50, right? They're not the pacifist that's trying to avoid situations like that, but they kind of say, hey, as long as you don't mess with me, you know, but if you come after me, I'm going to be on it, you know. Do you guys, anybody with this? Oh, Trip. Wow, Trip Rodriguez. Yes. Trip.
Thank you for the raid. Welcome, Raiders.
Trip. Welcome, Raiders.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Welcome. Trip, hope you had a great stream as always. Mr. Joysticks himself. Hope you had a good stream. Booyah. Yeah, good to see you, bro. Thank you for sending your folks over. We'll try and take good care of them. We're doing a show called High and By today, and it's about what type of player are you in Star Citizen? Are you the greeter? Are you the beater? Are you somewhere in between? So that's our conversation for today. The Defender, Live and Let Die. I think this is kind of a lot of players that we know that they're in the game to achieve and do some things, but if it's time to step up to the game because somebody's acting a fool, you know, the folks will step up to it. They don't run away from it. They don't cry. They don't complain. I know I'm in Test Squadron, and I've been in situations where I've been doing stuff before, and somebody came after me, and I'll say something, and man, people are like, where they at? Let's go. You know, people, let's go take care of it, you know. So, you know, do you guys feel that way with most of the people you play, that people are kind of like 50-50 in that area, or no? Or do you fall into that area? Sirius, I'll start with you.
This is the player or the play style that you want sort of the gangs to emulate in Pyro. Because, again, just because there's no UEE law doesn't order. Right. There's gang order. Right. And this is the type of player or play style that forges order from chaos. Right?
Yeah.
Right? This is the type of player who says, in a world of chaos, in a world where somebody's shooting everybody that comes out of the station, right, we're going to go out and take care of that player. Right. We're going to forge order. They create morality in the vacuum. Right. So they'll role play lawful conduct in a lawless environment. Right. So these folks are essential. On occasion, I will play this role. I remember we did escort for Ops Chief when he was going to certain new locations, right, just to make sure that things were right. And I like when other people play this role as well, because I think, again, given the gaps in some of the systems, this particular player is essential. So
okay. Kelosal.
I have the same theory as what I just said a while
Okay.
ago with
Okay.
that piece, and that's why I got my road dog behind me on
Okay.
this one. Grumpy. I'm the best. I'm one of the biggest Care Bears in the world until I turn into this Care Bear.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
my gameplay is going to be the same no matter what.
Okay. Okay. Fair. Fastcart, how about you? Are you pretty much the person, like, if somebody comes after you, you're like, okay, let me take care of them? Or are you just pretty much like, I'm out of here? Which one are you?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
I'm running away as fast as I can.
Okay.
Especially if I'm carrying something like I'm gonna compare like EVE Online. When you're trying to make a null sec or low sec run, trying to jump between gates and hoping no one scrams you or intercepts you or whatnot.
Right.
You just trying to get from one place to the other. That's me.
Yeah.
If you come after me, I hope I have a ship that can outrun you or out defend you.
Yeah.
Or one or the other until I can get away.
Yeah. Yeah. Trip, I'm glad you're here too, bro. I know usually it's the other way around. We usually get to hit you up, but thank you. We're glad that you're able to drop in for a little bit. We appreciate you. Here's the thing. I think play styles often affect this, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. Fastcart, you just mentioned about low sec, no sec, null sec, from the EVE days when we were playing. And because I was always a person who played the trading side of things, like industrial, like salvaging, and like in Star Citizen would be like salvaging, it would be like mining, things of that nature. My value is usually built into the resources that I'm taking with me. So if I'm carrying cargo, freight, whatever it is, trading items, that kind of demanded for me that combat was not on my list. You know what I'm saying? Defense might have been on my list, but not combat. My goal was to do whatever it was I'm going to do and deliver it, right? And so in Star Citizen, it's still kind of like that thing, right? You get a mission, you do your thing, or you go mining. The idea is to get to the refinery, in the processes. So some people don't understand that if that's not your mindset, they wonder why, you can kind of get labeled Care Bear. It doesn't really have to do with you with Care Bear. It has to do with the fact that my losses in a battle against somebody in a fighter, and if they're not trying to pirate me or do some type of smuggling or something, my losses are greater than theirs because it's not my ship. It's not even my time. But if I'm carrying a bunch of stuff that has, I don't know, $250,000, $500,000 or whatever, and I lose that, my losses are tremendous. And so, as much as when I'm not in that scenario, when I'm not playing that type of gameplay, live and let die is way better for me. You know what I mean? I'm definitely down for it. But when I'm in that other mode, I'm a little bit more live and let live, if you know what I mean. When I'm doing that, whatever my gameplay is can determine which one of these characters I can kind of fall into. So I want to go to this one now. And Kelosal, you already brought this one up, so I'm going to start with you. You kind of said that this isn't always you, but I've been out with you before and we said, there's somebody over there. And I've heard you say, shoot first, ask for forgiveness later. I've heard you say that before. So is that a paranoid thing? Like, does that come from the fact that you can step into a universe or a game where that is like the culture? And so even though that's not you, you adopt that culture? Because that's what the culture of the game is. Now, I'm not talking about like a survival game. If we're talking about like a Rust or a Scum or something like that, you go in those worlds, that's what the culture is going to be. But do you think that survival of the fittest thing makes us paranoid? Does that make us paranoid?
Well, it can. So there's 3 types of gameplays that I play. Usually the first one I'd rather play is my role play. That's
Okay.
The first one I'd rather play. So if I role play, I'm not going to be the shoot first, ask questions later.
Okay.
I'm going to be
Right.
talk it out. Let's see how it gets you.
Right.
Even if I'm detained by a rogue player or something like that, I may negotiate myself out of a deal. Blah 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 blah. Things like that. That's role playing.
Okay.
Then you got the other type of gameplay where you're in the org and you realize the severity of your action. You can do one thing and it can start a freaking galactic war with a lot of other organizations. You got to realize that piece. Okay, but then there's a third type of gameplay where you're just basically saying, "Screw it." Come what may.
Okay.
And stuff like that. And it may happen. The come what may part tends to happen when I go out to these types of events or things like that. Because if everybody is going out to one area, which CIG loves to do, have everybody go out to one area and things like that, where you PvP for a certain spot, it's going to be a shoot first, ask questions later.
Okay.
Because it's either kill or be killed in that scenario. So yes.
Okay.
But it's the former. I'd rather do the former first, which is role played out, than the latter.
Well,
what's interesting about this particular archetype is in almost every game setting, in almost every MMO, in almost every context, the paranoid starts out, they'll tell you about the first time they played and how they trusted. And it's really about betrayal, right? That's what it's really about. It's about this idea that they were betrayed in trusting people and in supporting this idea that we're all in the game together. And now they're not going to got again. Right? And so self-preservation, distrust, trauma from previous betrayals. There's a psychologist in real life named Jonathan Shea, who wrote about this Greek concept called temis, right? And it's betrayal of trust, right? That leads to this way of seeing and being in the world, right? And so this behavior is reactive and not predatory, right? This is not predation. This is uncertainty, right? More than aggression. So.
Good point. Travin72 says, I wouldn't be paranoid if everyone wasn't out to get me.
Done something really credible to get you that. And Griff, the sad thing about that, Griff, if it's me, if somebody does me wrong the first time, I'm gonna keep coming for you until I feel satisfied. To the point to where I may feel like I'm griefing you. That's how bad it is. That's how I hope I don't get to that level. Because if you get me that one good time and you got no reason, there's no gameplay, there's no role playing, whatever you just did is because you liked it and that's how you do it, I am gonna hunt you down till your life ends itself.
I had to laugh at Danger Hobo says, get me once, shame on you. Get me 2 times, we can't get got again. So That's fair. Yeah. Captain Jones says the most current gameplay forces most people to be paranoid, but I think plenty would prefer to have more cooperative gameplay if it was an option. And that's serious, what you were mentioning earlier, right? Those options aren't always laid out there. And that, some of the gameplay, I think some of these categories that we're talking, we're not saying anything bad about any of these categories. It's just interesting that if the structure of the game isn't there to open up these other avenues, sometimes these things we're talking about are just the defaults of where we find ourselves landing. And then there's also the question of, are we bringing things from other game experiences into this universe, and how, do they fit or do they not fit, or maybe later they won't fit? It's interesting to figure out. Go ahead, FC.
Go ahead, FC.
No, for me, I saw this on a doc that we used. I actually had to prepare a statement for this one because this one is so far out of my wheelhouse, per se. So when I'm running with folks in Soul Station, it's a different mentality for me to have. Anyone who doesn't look like us, we shoot. Maybe I watch too much Star Trek, but I want to ask questions first. It's my first instinct. But I realized that if I hesitate, I could end up incapacitated. So I like flying ships because enemies come up red. It's easier when you're flying ship, but that's most of the time. So, but there's also an aspect of group versus solo. If you're solo, you tend to try to be a defender from your definition. People tend to either want to I look to a Kelosal. Or if you're in a group, you have more confidence to take on whatever threat comes at you.
Yeah. Well, like last night, I was with Sirius and Cece. We were just doing a quick run in Hathor. And I think it was that, I can't remember, Sirius, if it was you who had the back. No, it wasn't you with the backpack. It was Sirius with the component. And we were heading back to the ship. and we saw somebody, and it was a player. And we were like, is that an NPC or a player? And we're like, it's a player. And under any other circumstance, I would have probably cut some slack and said, let's just keep going as long as he doesn't mess with us. But because we had something that had value, we took the guy out. Even though he didn't do anything to us, we took him out, because it was just, we didn't want to risk the possibility of some type of engagement and losing something that we had found, right? So I guess it does depend, right? If you, like you said, fastcart, maybe any other chance, I would have let the guy have some slack and said, as long as he didn't come this way, we're all right, because there's 3 of us. But because we had something of value, we didn't want to take the chance, and we took the guy out. It's kind of crazy.
And it's been mentioned earlier. Kelosal mentioned it, and then you mentioned it, Griff. Is that we bring our experiences from other games to this game? Yeah. Right. Yeah. And CIG, I think, will have to work much harder to create systems of live and let live, and systems of preservation, trust, where there's a real cost for betrayal. They'll have to do a lot more than is typical to overcome that, right? Because people have been educated that the MMO environment has a certain rapaciousness, right? And that if we have game systems that elevate that, then I don't think you can have Star Citizen be the second life, right? Because no one wants to live under traumatic conditions, right? Yeah. You would just want to come in and out of an environment with those types of conditions, but you wouldn't want to live there. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so they're going to have to really think about ways in which you can get out from under that, and ways in which you can't. Yeah. Right. So, yeah.
Scarborough says this. He says, Admiral will appreciate this. He says, if PvE is difficult enough, even in an inherently PvP game like Scum can necessitate spontaneously teaming up with rando players. So let me put that to you guys. When they've introduced this stuff now with like the Hathor in the ASD missions, especially the ASD missions, I mean, the NPCs and stuff were coming out of this everywhere for us. Did that create a feeling of other players that were in this? Because we had a guy who actually ran around with us and was healing us. Remember that, Serious? Remember the guy was medical? You remember that fastcart?
Yeah, it did. The guy in white.
Yeah, this guy was there. He was just some rando who decided, I'm gonna hang out and heal these guys all the time. And that's all. And that was evidently gameplay for him. Now, for some people, they wouldn't even think about risking their own life. Remember, he was in a radiation suit, running around healing us. I think it was a radiation suit.
We rolled up like 8-9 deep, so it was also self-preservation.
Yeah, but
he saw us and like, let me just help them. True, and then they're gonna be like, oh, he's good. He's a good guy.
True, but
we would shoot him.
but all he did, he hung out with us that whole time and kept healing us. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now, some people wouldn't see that as a form of gameplay. Some people would, why is this guy running around some people he doesn't know? And every time they go down, you'd look up and this guy would be healing one of us. For some, I don't know what it was. He wasn't like he was getting paid. Matter of fact, we should have paid the guy. I didn't even think about it.
Yeah, we should have. Well, dude,
that's what the guy was doing.
I'm going to say,
I pay him nothing. He decided to be there on his own.
Oh my God!
And he decided to
wow,
go ahead
that's that Hurston mentality. That's that Hurston mentality.
That is so funny.
But I am so sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, fastcart.
But for me, it's like the other night we were running around. We got in that crevice, and before we all went down, but the NPCs coming at us. Some of that are those NPCs a real person? I'm like, does it really matter?
Oh, yeah. Well, it depends
because I like how there's a different mentality when dealing with NPCs virtual players.
So sometimes you get that. Maybe he was doing the live and let live. He was a pacifist.
Yeah,
and he showed up by himself. Realized that he was not going to be able to finish the event on his own, so he played Dr. Love.
Yeah,
and went ahead and started healing people. That's a role play type thing. I commend him for it. He role played and stuck within that same character
Yep.
and followed you guys while you guys led him to whatever outcome the event led, or the activity, led you to be at peace. That's brilliant gameplay, and that's role playing at its best. He just probably didn't have on VoIP.
But that's what he did. Yeah, you're right. That is what he did. Captain Jones mentions a good point here. He says ASD is a good example. If the Apex was harder to beat, people would be forced to work together more often than enemy of my enemy. And we talked about this, Kelosal. You remember we were talking about this with Star Wars Galaxies. When that Crate Dragon came out, it took like 50 people to kill that thing. And it was like people from all over that came out there to work on the Crate Dragon. And, you know, they weren't always people that were part of your group. It's just that it took 50 people to do the thing, and people had to play cooperatively when they did that. So, I mean, here's what I believe, though. Here's what I believe. I believe if you make the Apex Valacar harder to beat, you will have people who team up to beat it, and then as soon as it drops, oh yeah, they'll shoot each other to get the prizes. Well, they wouldn't shoot each other to get the prize, but they definitely, it was every man for himself when that thing died, because everybody wanted that crate pearl, right? And if you didn't get it, people were just kind of like, oh, and you just waited for the next time around. It didn't break out into a firefight. But I get what you're saying, though. It didn't break out into a firefight. But yeah, there was definitely a rush for who could get to that pearl before, you know, somebody else did. But I agree. I think the crate, I mean, not crate. I think that the Valacar is way too easy. I know right now it's testing, so I'm not expecting them to hold it there. But I really want the Valacar to be something where you got to have 6-8 people. Screw that, man. You need to have like freaking 40-50 people to take that thing down. That thing's a monstrosity.
That's too many.
No, it ain't. It ain't. That's how many took out a Crate Dragon. You couldn't do it with no 15-20 people on a Crate Dragon. That, as far as I'm concerned, it needs to give better reward, because it doesn't give a lot of reward, fastcart, to your point. Because I think it only gives out like 3 pearls and 8 teeth or something like that, which is nothing. But that's when you start. That's when you start to implement a DKP system for points to who gets what. You don't want that in Star. I don't want that in Star Citizen. That's too much. No, I don't want that. But I'm just saying, it's an Apex. Right. It's a major, that thing's 300 meters long or whatever it's supposed to be. Right. And all I'm saying is that 6 to 8 people taking that thing down. I'm sorry. It needs to be an event. And I know we're testing it right now. That whole thing of putting the egg in and making it come out. That's great. But later on, when we do get into the thing where you get the random encounters, right? If you're out there with a group of people, and that, like we play this thing, what's that game we play? I know Fist and Pops are in the game right now. I don't want to say, no, not Exodus. What's that game we play, y'all?
I said Icarus.
Icarus has one of them things, worms that show up like that. And man, that thing, it's not as big as this one. And that thing's a wrestle. It is no joke to fight that thing. So to me, this thing is way bigger, man. I mean, we need to have this thing like swallowing people up and stomping them and everything. Listen, if 50 people go out there to fight that thing, about 10 or 15 of y'all should be dead before it's over with. That's my attitude. But that's
my thing is, I'm worried about serviceability. If two people start hanging out one place, I'm worried about the game not being able to take it, and everyone. You already
got that with how many people get on a Javelin or an Idris, so that's not even an issue. Right. That's so not a big deal.
You want 50 people in one place. Yeah. How that's going to work out?
Well, you got 50 people on the Idris. You got 50 people on the Idris right now with all the guns and everything firing. What's the difference? It's the same thing. It's not like they're coming with some great new big number. I'm just saying in time, and I said later. I said we're testing it right now. I'm saying later. Right. I would love to see it get to that point where you've got like 50 people out there fighting that thing. But that's just me. Okay. All right. We're going to take a commercial break real quick. Thank you guys for being here. I see you guys got a lot of stuff saying in the chat there. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to kind of talk a little bit more. We've got some more categories for you guys. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the show today. Thanks for being here with us. Let's see. When's it going to click? There we go. Once again, those of you who are here right now, you're here because you're one of our supporters, our subscribers, and we really appreciate you being here. Hope you all are enjoying this show. Hopefully you're throwing some comments up for us as well. I'm trying to read them as we're doing this show. But we want to say thank you for being here. Next week, we are doing a show. What's our show called next week? Playability. Playability. Okay. And what we're going to be doing next week is talking about a review of has CIG, they said how they wanted this year to be a different year where the game is more playable performance wise. We're going to be talking about what we've observed over the past 6 months, and we're reaching that 6-month mark as of next week. And we're going to be kind of saying, hey, is CIG delivering? Are they doing it? What could they do better? That's going to be our conversation. So hopefully you guys can join us. So thank you for being here with us. As always, we truly, truly appreciate you. And we're going to go back to the show in 3, 2. Yes, say it quickly.
Before you do that, quickly, just want to remind people, tickets for Quantum Vegas are still available. So go to the Quantum Vegas site. It's thinking about coming. I know people say that for the end of the show, but I'm thinking about the halftime shows. There's a shout out to.
Okay, awesome. All righty, Bando.
Thank you for the sub.
Yeah, Papadopoulos and Bando. Thank both of you guys for the subs.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you. You put us 50%. 50%. We're halfway to our subs. Actually, those numbers are wrong. I don't know what that is, but thank you guys. We appreciate it. Let's see. Okay, let's move on to the next one here. Ooh, boy, that's some bad typing. Only the good die young. How did I get that so that is not spelling across the screen correctly? Only the good die young.
You skipping commercial?
We just did it.
Oh, did we?
Yep.
Yeah, that was commercial just now.
That's what I was talking to.
I'm talking about the play. I'm talking about the play type.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. He had an out-of-body experience for a moment.
Okay.
He left us and came back. Only the good die young. Now, this has way more to do with if you've been playing for a while. Are there any special tactics, special things you do to survive in the game? Those of you who are veteran players out there, are there certain things that you do? Do you travel in groups, for example, to minimize your risk factors? Do you play at certain times of the day to minimize your risk factor? Do you fly a certain ship or carry a certain weapon? That because you've been playing for a while, you know how the game is, you feel pretty confident, and only those people who don't know better, or they're going to be the ones that are going to probably not survive with an encounter with you. So Sir Togi says, I shoot Kelosal first.
That's pretty much standard. All of the above, unless you're Gladestone that walks out without a helmet.
Yeah. Yeah. Danger Hobo says, don't go to Yella's OMs. Okay, that's one thing to avoid. Serious, I'll go to you first. Is there any special things that you do? Particular armor you wear because you feel when I put this armor on, I got a better chance of survivability or anything like that?
I can't talk about people not putting a helmet on because I'm notorious for that. But I wear heavy armor.
Okay.
In the main because it seems to give me a couple of extra shots before I go down, and the heavy backpack allows me to store different types of weapons. I also think about my whole gameplay is not fully guided by this, but I do think about, is Europe asleep? Is the vast majority of America asleep? This might be a better time to jump on and do certain things. I do think about zigging when I think the community is zagging. So for example, if everybody's going to do the Apex Valacar, I'll lag behind 1 or 2 events. Right. So they do the Valacar. I recommended we do executive hangar.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And there is another group of people who think that way. And so sometimes you get clusters around that anyway, because they're thinking, and I saw on Reddit today, people were like, I went over and did the Apex Valacar and nobody's over there. Everybody's thinking everybody's going to be over.
Right.
So sometimes it backfires on you. But I do think about these things. Ultimately, I do what I want to do.
Okay.
But if these things do pop into my mind in terms of doing that, I like when Soul Station groups up because there is strength in numbers. Even though we die a lot, there's strength in numbers. This is also the archetype that functions when I introduce new people to the game, just to be clear, right? This is how, you introduce somebody new to the game and then they go in for their time without you. Sometimes they'll function like this, right? um, lacking some of those, trying to remember all the things you told them about the things you know over 10 years. They can't remember all that, right? And so they'll just, do something and you're like, why'd you do that? They just started in the game. So.
Okay. Papadopoulos, thank you for that gift sub to Daskilla. This Daskilla's first time here and said hello for the first time earlier. So we're going to give a shout out to Daskilla. We appreciate you being here and hanging out with us today. We're going to give you the whammer.
Hey, thanks for the subscription.
Thank you for the subscription. All right. We appreciate that. Colossal, any special things you do to survive in the game? Special survivability tactics, or you just go for it?
No, I mean, these are the basic things that you need to do is make sure you have, in one of those survivability games, you need to make sure you have the necessary needs for survivability: food, resources, ammo, right gear, right vehicle.
Okay.
I mean, pyro is going to become a death trap for a lot of you guys. I don't think you understand how really serious pyro can be, especially since we don't have the solar flares popping up.
Just yet, right? That's true. Yeah. Okay. You guys experienced that, in Evocati,
tenfold, and things like that. If you think your optical view is good now, just wait until that solar flare hits you. So you have to be able to prepare for those types of things. And you should be prepared for the unexpected, which is the possibility of your ship being taken away, the possibility of your ship being exploded. What resources are you going to take with you for that type of mission to and fro? And things like that. And how many suits are you going to need to take? If you're going to need to take your suit off, are you going to a planet that has oxygen or not? Things like that. So you got to be prepared for that. I know a lot of people just jump in their ship and just go out because you just want to go ahead and go out. But sometimes there's some of us who spend about an hour in preparation, just like those people spend about an hour in customizing their characters. Right? Because you don't want to, if you're going to spend that long in the game, you want to make sure you don't have to worry about coming back over and over again to get the basic materials. So it takes time. Survivability takes time. And once you got all that stuff prepped up, you should be good to go.
Okay. So fastcart Colossal says preparation. I know you said earlier that you don't really play the game a lot because you're trying to keep some stuff reserved for when the game gets to a further development state. But I know that you're interested in doing trade. You're big into doing this whole Banu merchant gameplay. Have you thought about what are the things you're going to do to make sure that you don't die? Because, some people might see a Banu merchantman and think, ooh, there must be something on that ship. What have you thought about to prepare yourself so that you don't die young?
One of the things I thought about, I don't know if this is actually going to work, but how the Legionnaire is a boarding ship.
Yeah,
I was thinking about putting a Legionnaire underneath my docking port so no one else can get in. I don't know if that's going to work in 1.0. Probably not.
No, I don't think
they could just shoot it off and just land there anyway.
I don't think that's going to work. Yeah, go ahead.
But for now, I've learned recently, I don't use a P4 because I stopped popping space in the back by accident when I was trying to use it. So I'm only using P8 now. That's something I learned. I'm getting used to. I'm getting better at being prepared. Like I have had food, drink, stems, ammo. And the other night I was asking, so how much of each of these should I be carrying? And people told me, so I'm getting better at that. And also, keeping time clear when it needs to be clear. I'm learning about that because I talk over anybody. So I'm getting better at stuff.
Okay. Cool. Alrighty.
I'm sorry, New Soul Sounds. I'm sorry. It's an accident. See, what had happened was.
All right. We got the person who says, better you than me. the murder hobo. Let me give you guys the definition because everybody probably has their own definition of murder hoboing. Zombie Pig, thank you. 22 months. You're approaching 2 solid years, and we appreciate you. We really, really do. We thank you for that. Where's my Whammer at? Whammer, where are you at? Whammer? Thank you, Whammer.
Thanks for the subscription.
All right, there goes Whammer. All right. So, let me give you the definition that came up when I put in Murder Hobo. It said a character who wanders the game world unattached to any community, indiscriminately killing and looting. So there are some qualifiers here because some people want to just name anybody who shoots somebody a murder hobo. But this definition was very specific. All they do is want. In other words, there's not any purpose. They're not doing missions or anything. All they do is wander the game world. They aren't attached to any community. In other words, they're not hanging out with their friends or they're not in a group. And they're just indiscriminately killing. It didn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference if you're waving hi or if you're doing this. It doesn't make a difference. They are indiscriminately killing. Okay.
There are a number of streamers who meet this profile.
And in fact, Togi said you could just throw them a picture of me, a picture of him for that definition. Just put it up there right beside the definition.
The murder hobo. So have you guys ever been like in murder hobo mode where you just kind of like, you know what? That guy's, I'm just killing, I just feel like going out and killing some people. I had a bad day. I want to kill people. Or just this is the style of gameplay, there scenarios. Yeah. Go ahead, Kelosal.
Yes. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to get you guys to do it. I'm like, come on, just go out. Let's just go out.
That is not me.
Yeah, he's always trying to get us to do something. He's always trying to get us to do something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Notice his background when he tells you to.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Yes. The Hurston background. It's the Hurston family's attitude over there. Just so you all will know.
Kelosal, I am a lover, not a fighter. Okay.
Yep.
Sometimes things have to be done, and sometimes you are the law. So when I go out there, I am the law. So yes, I try to go ahead and get rid of the world, the universe with certain estranged individuals, and I try to have certain people, nihilists, to go ahead and come out and help me get rid of these individuals. But they don't want to do that. They don't have the guts.
But okay, but admittedly, you're doing more of an act of vigilante. That's a little different than indiscriminately killing and looting, because you're just, in other words, anything that moves, it's justified to be shot. That's the type of person we're talking about. It doesn't make a difference. New player, old player, newbie, that just learned the game, veteran, senior citizen on a walking cane, doesn't make a difference. You're going to shoot him and kill him, right? And there are players that play that way. I mean, that's their thing. Now, here's my question. Can the murder hobo be reformed? Now, let me explain what I mean. Does the murder hobo scenario get created because, for lack of a better thing, there's nothing better to do? The lack of content, lack of challenge, does that create a murder hobo situation?
If the murder hobo is a murder hobo because they're testing the system limits, that's great for this testing environment, right? Mm-hmm. And that will go away as systems get fixed. So, right. This isn't murder hoboing, but the clipping hobo, right? Who the people who block access to certain things by putting a ship in front of it or a cargo thing in front of it, right? I'd love to see that stuff now in early access alpha. Why? Because I don't want to see it when the game kicks off. Right?
Do you
think CID to see it now?
So do you think that that's an issue? Because I don't mind the person who decides to go in and set a cargo crate and block my access, because we had that happen. What bothers me is that I don't have the option to remove it. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
that's the thing that bothers me, right? Even though I know they're glitching, right? Even though I know they're glitching, let's say that they allowed that to still exist in the game, right? The person sets up a blockade because maybe there were some people chasing him. He's a bounty hunter coming after me, and I'm going to put this up here to slow them down. But when I arrive and my multi-tool doesn't turn on to allow me to move out of the way, or if I'm the bounty hunter, and my multi-tool doesn't allow me to, I lost 2 minutes chasing this guy, but at least I can move this out. That's what bothers me more than anything, Yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, I think that's right. And I think if the murder hoboing is from that, then there is purpose in it, right? Mm-hmm. You said something that I think is also true, which is very often these individuals are unanchored or unattached to organizations and to groups, right? And so one of the other ways to limit this is to get them attached to groups, start doing stuff with other people, right? Boredom, I don't understand. I don't want to understand it because I'm not bored in the game, right? So if you're bored, maybe this ain't for you, but it is what it is. Okay. And the other thing, I think Togi said it in chat. He said murder hobos will always exist in an open PvP game. I think that's true. I think, but there are ways to just if you take all of the open game, and that, I'm not sure this is a PvP game, but if you take these games where PvP is an aspect of it, murder hoboing is more in some and less in others, and most of the time that's because there's great systems that create meaningful consequences for random violence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have some of those things now, right? When we just need to continue to have, CIG needs to continue to have the courage to implement those things, right? Like we need to make sure that if you're in a lawful area and you commit random violence, that it doesn't have to just be players coming after you, right? That when you do get caught and you go to jail, you're in jail for a long time, and then that character doesn't get used, you know, and then you got to put $45 down minimum, right? I'm very comfortable with that, right? I'm also comfortable with dying in lawless places, right? So I think all of it is true, right? But power fantasies, boredom, curiosity about system limits, it depends on why the murder hobo for me.
Yeah.
Can I just say, if you're bored, play a different game. Leave me to be in a Care Bear. I don't want any of it. That's all.
Well,
I'm say.
you know, to say play another game.
Now, I'm being facetious, but just leave me be. Let me be a Care Bear.
Yeah, but you know, my question becomes,
okay, Kelosal.
you know, there are games. Okay, so let me ask you this question: why? If you had to, no, maybe I shouldn't ask you guys to explain why this is. My question also becomes, you know, can CIG create spaces that allow people to lift to that level of challenge where, like, you know, you can have like a Wild West place. I mean, just places that are dangerous to go to. You know, I mean, that level of unbridled shooting and defense and everything can take place. My question is, even if that world is created, will those people go to those areas, or will they still stay in the areas that don't bring that level of anarchy, chaos, challenge? I mean,
these people aren't looking for that type of challenge. They're not looking to play against players that are either equal to them or better than them. They're going to go into the least restrictive areas that allow them to maybe exploit, but not really exploit. In other words, play the game within the gameplay, but allows them to do what they really want to do. And most of the time when you're doing that, you're not going to do that against top quality people who have good skills. You're going to do that against people who are completely unaware, no logistics, completely vulnerable to the type of gameplay that you want them to be vulnerable to. So, sorry, Fastcart, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Kelosal beat me to it. I was going to say, murder hobos to me, it seemed like the kind of player who want the easiest target and the least challenge if possible.
Yeah, I want CIG to punish that. That's what I want. I want that to be punished severely.
Could be. There are some ways. You know, station, boom, instant kill.
I mean,
Elite punishes that, right?
Yeah, Elite does. Elite does. Yeah, Elite does.
And Elite creates a space for a bubble or in the bubble for new players, right?
Right.
So that doesn't allow murder hobos to come into that space.
Right. Now, Elite does.
And in chat, someone says, if I wanted a fair fight, I wouldn't be a murder hobo.
Right.
Okay.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, I know there are people who enjoy that type of gameplay, and that's why I'm wondering, even if there is a space that's created for that, would they gravitate toward it? I'm not the type of player, so I don't know. You know, but I think that there should be places that are like in Eve. Eve has places that are you just don't go there. If you go there, you know something going to kick off. You know, so you kind of know not to go there. And there are players that do try to encroach in those areas and stuff. I am curious whether or not, like right now, a lot of the people that I know that like that type of gameplay, they're not hanging out in Pyro a lot. They might be every once in a while, but they actually are more coming to Stanton half the time. So, you know, and mind you, I know that there's still not enough stuff built out in Pyro for them to be able to engage. I think that if the PvE stuff was engaging, if Reputation was engaging, if there were more players that set up bases and things, I think you would see a lot more of those people who are the murder hobo types. I really do believe that if they have more stuff to do, there would be less gravitation toward murder hobo and more toward just playing, you know, a more different way, you know, whatever you want to call it, PvP violent way of playing the game. I don't have any problem with that. But I do think that some of it has to do with the fact that there just aren't, you know, you've got that sandbox there, but it's just not enough of the toys in there in place to retain some type of challenge for those people to step into. Now, mind you, you're always going to have those people who are just kind of crazy and they just want to do stuff. There's chaos agents. I get that. I get that. You know, I'm not trying to.
That's one of three things. That's one of three things that will impact that, right? Which is stuff to do. The other one is the game is going to be vast. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, you know, we get to 1.0 and we got 5 systems, right? It's going to be hard for murder hobos to get around. Right. The third thing is that, you know, the more that big ships require multiple players, right? The more that, you know, the medium and larger ships, murder hobos tend to run around like a fighter, a meta fighter, right? You know, and if they're with 4 other people, they're likely doing something else, right? Yeah. You know, it's you don't find 15 murder hobos fully kitting out an it. Right? Yeah. You know, I do think though that there will need to be some systems to make sure that behavior is punished. You know, in Star Citizen more than other games.
Yeah, I mean,
we have had a lot of investment, right, and not interested in that BS. So.
A lot of those
hang on, Kelosal.
Go ahead.
No, Kelosal, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying that a lot of those people are not in Pyro. They're still standing. I think the players should create their own gameplay and call it the blockade of Grimhex. Because that's what most of them are. And just blockade the hell out of Grimhex all day, every day, maybe for a week. Yeah. And force them jokers into Pyro. Create that gameplay, right? And see how that happens. Hello, how you doing? So the folks that Grimhex, you know who you are, you streamers.
So to your point, there have been games where communities have done things that have literally changed the direction of how gameplay happens in those worlds. Is it that we're too reliant on CIG to be the ones to do that? Is that a thing? Is that because I've heard people say, and I agree, people say somebody's doing something. I was like, well, do something about it. You know, go get a bunch of people. If there are a bunch of people who are doing something in an area they're blockading, get a bunch of people out there and bring it to them. You know what I mean? And now you've created something organic within the game space. And you're also helping to defend those people who are the defenseless. You know, a lot of times I hear the players complain about stuff, but I don't see them say, okay, y'all, let's get in our ships. And we heard somebody's over at, you know, Brio's junkyard and they're keeping people from landing. That's straight gameplay. Go in there and have it out with them. You know what I mean? But people don't do it. And I think some of that comes from the fact that cooperative gameplay is still not in a lot of people's minds. They still don't, or there are other people who just don't want to engage in it at times, you know. But I think that if people did do more cooperative gameplay like that, you'd have some cool stuff to take place in the game. But, you know, that's me.
Comes all the way back to Fastcart's point, which is this is AUEC. It's going to be very interesting to see how people act when they lost some UEC.
Right? Yeah, that might change. That might change the dial. Yeah, that might change the dial. Okay, let's hit this. Go ahead.
I was just wanting to say that you know, we keep hoping or saying CIG may or will improve the situation by having certain aspects in place when 1.0 coming out. I'm afraid that whatever CIG does may not be up to the task, and I'm worried for the moment like someone new comes into the game. They may be a great addition to the community, but they have a bad experience with a motor hobo and just take them out of the game. I worry about that.
Maybe. Don't know. It's hard to say. You know, there are people who leave the game just because the game doesn't run well. So, you know, it's hard to say, you know, but I think that it's going to be I don't think it is on CIG completely. I think CIG can set up certain, because they can get too restrictive. And then you can numb certain things. I think that they can build game mechanics things that create a penalty or price for actions that stays within the realm of the game, does not penalize people in such a way that that just seems so outrageous. I think that when it happens, the person should get it. And even if they don't like it, they say, well, at least I get it, you know? And then I think the players have a responsibility that when things are happening in the universe, you know, go out there and deal with it. Yeah, that's my attitude. Go out there. When they were first doing the Atmo esports, and the first time they had griefers pop up, you know, people whined and complained, oh, the griefers are ruining our party, blah, 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 blah. But then they woke up and started hiring orgs to step up and be security for them. And then CIG stepped up and said, hey, we're going to try to help you guys out with making sure that some of the servers are, you know, mostly your people on there. So it was a combination of two efforts. You see what I'm saying? To kind of help manage it. But even with the game in development, there was still some effort on both people's parts to do stuff. But later on, I agree with Sirius. I think they will build some things in here that kind of keep things in place across the board. And I hope that they will. Okay.
I was just going to say real quick that I very often come back to what Tyler was willing to say to millions of people when they went on Linus's Tech Tips. They went on their Tech Longer program.
Mm-hmm.
And the quote is, Star Citizen is the most ambitious, immersive, uncompromising universe sim ever. It is our attempt at a living universe that will ultimately become the metaverse for tens, if not hundreds of millions of people around the world. We want people to be able to escape into the verse and never have to come out except for the essentials. Mm-hmm. So you're going to need a combination of systems and player action to make that be the case.
Make that happen, yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. To Fastcart's point, if you see that and you jump in, and the first 5 times you jump in, you just die because somebody's like, get good. That's not going to get tens, if hundreds of millions of people around the world to play. That won't work at all. So.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'm trying to read some of the comments. So it says, when I played WoW, our guide used to defend to Dressel whenever it was attacked, because it would get attacked so often. We would save the low level players. Okay. Danger Hobo says the move is to sit at the pyro gateway and shoot when people leave the wormhole. That was going on a lot back. I haven't had that happen. I had it happen only one time, and it was the very first time I tried to jump through the portal. It was like maybe the week after it first opened up, because I didn't want to go when everybody was going, because I knew there was a lot of chaos. And I was trying to figure out how to make my jump, right? I'm sitting there trying to, figure out how to coordinate and get the thing to tune. And somebody just came up and blasted me, right? And it was like, oh, okay, and this goes back into when I was talking about, is life worth 2 cents? If someone were to say, get good, well, get good at what? I was just trying to line up and jump through the jump point and just get good, I don't know.
And Jones says that's what kept me out of Eve as a new player. And Captain Jones is a committed gamer.
Yeah.
So Eve lost out.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for that.
He didn't lose. Eve lost.
Yeah, Eve lost out. Yeah. Togi says, let's see, the move is to sit. Okay, I said that one. Togi says, can't stand the heat, get out of the fire. Yeah, that's the question is, who's fire? I guess that's the only thing I would ask to that. I mean, who says there's a fire?
His line of fire.
I was going to say,
his line of fire.
Maybe that's what it is. If you can't stand the heat, get out of the fire. Get out of the line of fire. Zodaside says, but in WoW, there were notifications in chat whenever places like that were being attacked. We used to have things like that back in the day when people used to joke around with Jump Town. What was it? Is Jump Town safe? Was that the line back in the day? Safe. Is Jump Town safe? Right? People used to say that all the time. And I remember going to Jump Town, and I remember going to Jump Towns when it was hot. And I remember going to Jump Town sometimes where people were doing some stuff, and it was like, as long as you don't draw a weapon, come up here and get your boxes. You know what I mean? I mean, there were other people from different groups.
Line.
They was doing the conga line. You just always had to kind of see how people were playing the game at that moment. Then you had the people who just kind of flew over with an A2 bomb and blew it up just because they wanted to see people's bodies fly everywhere. I mean, you had all these different types of things that were going on. Zodaside, so we would all teleport in and defend. Okay. So the player stepped up into that. How come we can't make combat service beacons? Yeah, Blue Hunter, that, the idea of, somebody be able to drop a beacon to call for help is something that we know CIG has said that they want to be able to do. We just don't have them yet. Damon
probably have to extend the life of the ships in order for the player to have time to do that.
Yeah. Demon says, I am definitely sick of griefers. I am fine with PvP, but not people just killing people to screw with them. Or, like I saw earlier, an org just camping the storm tram, just killing people as soon as they got there, as soon as they got nothing for it. Yeah, it's interesting, Damon. We talked about this on a show a while back about risk versus reward and talking about what people gain. And we've talked about piracy and stuff before. I'm a purist when it comes to piracy. That's just me. I'm not trying to tell people how to do piracy, but I believe what dictionaries describe things as versus what people make up. And piracy in general was usually about gain in some form. It may have even been to a certain degree about reputation, whether it was a Blackbeard or whoever. I mean, it was about people obtaining wealth in a way that was not the traditional way. It wasn't, we knew there were trade ships, there were people moving things through trade lanes, and there was a group that would come in and take those items. And depending on how you cooperated with them, determined the outcome. Sometimes there was a level of risk that was involved with taking certain things, certain places. And if pirates took stuff, they would do things and take stuff, right? And that was their way of gaining wealth. They didn't go out and work jobs and do mining and stuff. They took the wealth from it. And understandable. I mean, in fact, companies often knew that there would be losses possibly due to piracy. But that had a form of, for lack of a better term, rationale, economic rationale behind it. I've known people that have played in Star Citizen where they've pirated people's ships, and once they've taken their ships from them, they will take their ship somewhere and say a ransom, pay us 200,000, pay us 2 million, and your ship with your cargo, we will meet you somewhere and deliver it. And they did that. Now, some people say that's role play. Other people did it for the economics. They made $2 million by doing absolutely nothing. And that person whose ship that they had, they didn't want to lose their cargo. And they evidently had them say, okay, I'll meet you there. And guess what? Those people traded their money and gave them their ship back. Those are levels of gameplay, but I'm not sure that why players don't do that. I don't know why you can still do those things and engage with other players. And you might find that there are players who are like, screw it, take my stuff. I'd rather see that than say, well, I'm just going to blow my ship up, to be honest with you.
And that's a CIG opportunity, right? If piracy, for the most part, historically and in terms of the definition, is about how do I siphon off some of this cargo space lane or cargo sea lane or cargo road lane without destroying the thing, because I still want people to come through. I'm just trying to take a piece, right? Then you've got to have systems where pirates get rated for that, right? Pirates get rewarded for that. They get rewarded for not destroying the space lane while still taking a piece of the space lane. Right? That when you get that system in place and something happens positively as a result of that, then you're going to, right? Until then, as Papa Dabla said earlier, it's just the wild, wild west. Right?
And I just say, I realize you might be trying to move on, but I just like, maybe EVE Online had traumatized me. I had PTSD from EVE Online, because I know when you jump into the system, you have that 30-second or 20-second of cloak for you to line to your next gate. I did my first jump in Pyro this past Friday, so I could check off that check box. And I was flying in a 315P. So, but when I ride in Pyro, I had to find the ruined station on the map, and I was like, "Oh man, I'm taking too long. I'm gonna get blown up." But I eventually found it, and I was able to align to it and get out. So I appreciate being able to do that one time for my first time and not get blown up. But I know if I had done it like when Pyro first became available, I probably would have gotten blown up. So,
Almost over says to Togi's point, can't stand the toaster jump in the stove. That's his comment to it. Let's see. Demon says we flew in, stole the ship that was fully loaded with drugs, sold the drugs, and then we returned the ship. Different type of gameplay there. If people kill me and steal my cargo, good for them. Have fun. All right. Togi says fun is gain in its own. Fun is gain in its own right. Yeah, I mean, fun. There are plenty of scenarios where people can have fun, but to your question, Togi, the question is, what is fun? Right? I mean, you know, and everybody's going to have their different levels of fun. For some people, carrying a cargo box is fun. For other people, carrying a cargo box sucks, right? So fun is subjective. And so I can't use that as a general across the board thing because everybody comes to Star Citizen, like the person who wants to come in. Go ahead and say Kelosal.
No, that's what you hear that from all pirates. It's like they want to just go ahead and just vindicate what they're doing. You know, this is my fun. I want to have it. This is my way of doing it. And if you can't do it, then get out of the fire. Get into the stove.
Well, he didn't say.
People.
Yeah, I mean, he did. I mean, for some people, he did, and that's why I'm saying fun is subjective, right? Because
you're right.
people, what one person calls fun, another person calls laborious. For one person calls fun, another person said it's boring, and I get the sentiment when people say it, but I can't use that definition across the board for everybody because everybody comes to Star Citizen wanting to do something different and what other people consider fun. Somebody might say, no, that's not fun. It's actually the opposite of fun. It's fun for that person. And it's in MMO space, there is a, you know, and this is a purist form, guys. I'm not saying this is the reality, so please don't take this as a reality. But MMOs are designed to have some type of synchronicity to them, that things are connected, that there's some form of something that feeds something else, whether it's your economy, whether it's trading, whether it's an event that takes place. And when things don't operate that way, then it kind of feels weird. It feels outside of what a game is designed to do. So that's why when I gave the example of a piracy loop, that is an economic loop that happens in a game. Someone loses something, someone gains something, and maybe there you can say, well, maybe if I'd had somebody with me protecting me or an escort, I wouldn't have ran into this situation. But because I chose not to do that, I took a loss. Those are reasonable reasons to understand. But fastcart jumping through the wormhole, coming out on the other side where we know his shields are down, right? And then all of a sudden somebody lines up and blows him up. It's like, what was the gain? And some people would say that the fun of shooting fastcart coming through the wormhole when you know he has no defenses is psychotic. And I'll say that. They'll say that's psychotic. Yeah. That's not a fun thing.
The people who want my tears, I can feast on fastcart tears because they taste so good.
Well, that's the kind of
Yeah,
but my point is,
part of the truth though is also because you've been around Griff, you know this. Part of the truth is that before we had a combat logging system in. Players did rally around some of these murder hobos and try and take them out. And
your audio cut out.
Your audio cut out.
Say it one more time.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
Part of the truth is that before we had a combat logging system that persisted your ship in the game, sometimes players would rally on a server to go after somebody who was shooting newbies out of a station, and they would combat log out of the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so CIG did respond by putting a system in that said, no, you're not going to take the coward's way out of doing what you want. And then when people come to get you, you're just going to bounce out of the game. We're going to persist your ship in the game so you're going to still get destroyed. Right? And so that type of back and forth and responsiveness, both a combination of players and CIG, is what we continue to need. Right, as this evolves.
Yeah.
Zodicide says, give murder hobos assassination contracts. They have that in a way. If you reach a certain level of criminal activity, I think what you're trying to say, Zodicide, is that there probably should be player interactions with implementing contracts towards other players as well. That we've seen that in other games where a particular player says, I'm tired of this one player for doing this, that, and the third. Here's a 3 million. ISK or whatever it is. You saw that all the time in games like Arcade and things like that when players would put bounties on players and things like that. And I think that would be a good a tier 1 implementation for that.
But will people do it? Will people do it? I mean, can you make a bounty so high? No, wait a minute. Hear me out. I know there are bounty hunters that would gladly take advantage of that. But I'm saying, is that something that the murder hobo, if I say I'm going to pay you 20 million, do you think, and I'm not saying it won't, I'm just asking this, I'm genuinely asking this, do you think that that type of thing would make a hobo say, shoot, $20 million, let me quit shooting at fastcart for zero, I'll go out here and hunt this person down? Or do you think that they still wouldn't be interested? That money is not a factor?
We won't know until we really experience what UEC life is like, right? Like, I think we can test it, but we won't really know until, like, 20 mil may mean nothing ultimately.
Well, let's say 20 mil means something, and let's say that the murder hobo's got some money, and it's not a problem. Is that 20 million offering going to tell them to leave fastcart alone because I have bigger fish to fry, quote unquote, or it doesn't make a difference? They're still going to shoot fastcart coming through the wormhole with his shields down.
I don't think it makes a difference. I thought you were going to ask the other question, which is, will 20 million on Togi's head change his behavior?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think murder hobos are going to be murder hobos, but I think you put 20 or 40 million on a murder hobo.
You cut out again. You put 20 or 40 million on a murder hobo and what?
And whatever the meaningful amount is, I think that will have an impact on whether they get to hobo. So.
Okay. I put this title up.
Additional incentives.
Yeah. Let me describe this title, and then we're going to move forward. This is actually a quote from the Bible. I didn't put the rest of it in, but I put the first part in. It says, "It is appointed for man to die." And being a realist in Star Citizen and games like this, you're going to die. There are going to be those chances when they die. But on our show yesterday, Fastcart, you remember we were talking about this death of a spaceman. We also talked about the fact that death is not going to be with the frequency that we are used to. And this has already been described not only as you as a player, but also in relation to our ships. We know CIG has said that disabling ships will be the common thing. Destruction of a ship will be rare. And if it does, it's going to be because you're being deliberate. You're spending time to wear a ship down and ultimately destroy it, which in the process of you taking so much time to do it, there may be reinforcements showing up and you may not even get the chance to do it. And you may end up taking loss yourself. So they do want repair to be a thing and reclaiming and towing and all that way more than they want the destruction of your ship to take place. And that also is in relation to us as players. They want you to go to the hospital. They want you to call in a doctor. They want you to get into your C8R or your Cuddy Red or your Apollo. And they want you to die. Well, dying in the sense of dying and regeneration is going to be something that they're talking about much later on. But right now, we're used to the instant blow up of a ship. We're used to getting in capped and dying. That's the thing. But dying will be a thing, but it is going to be reduced. In the process of this, my question to you guys is, do you think that if CIG moves into that space where repair and towing and fixing up your ship starts to become more the thing, when you start to see that medical gameplay, calling for a beacon, getting a medical person to come rescue you, taking you to the hospital becomes more of a thing? Will that change the tone of people playing Star Citizen where death is way more elusive? Will we lose players? Will people say, that's just too much work? When you can no longer hit backspace, when hitting backspace is detrimental to you because you have now used one of your lives up. Not just wake up and pop back up and run around.
You know, we talked about this maybe last week. Maybe on the producers, but I am a believer that once you give players something, it's hard to take away. It's hard to take away.
Okay.
And so there will be some folks who react negative to any system that takes away any convenience with regard to anything. Right. Okay. I think the vast majority of players understand that this is an evolving system, though. Right. And they will give it an authentic, good faith take, right? They will lean in and play it the way that CIG is trying to do it and give them feedback on that. Some folks, though, will just react to, what do you mean if I backspace, I am one step closer to my character giving up 80% of their stuff in an inheritance tax or whatever it ends up being, right? You know, I think there will be folks who like, and they use the language of respect the player's time, right? As if this isn't a game to live in, right? And have sort of a life pace to it. So there will be some folks like that.
Okay. Colossal.
So Star Wars Galaxies had a pretty good system to where, your player didn't die off, but your player lost. If your player got killed or whatever happened to your player, you lost a lot of XP. And XP meant a lot of those players because it obviously developed your character. I know there's no XP in the game, but there is things like reputation and maybe since they're going to put in game mechanics like you lose an arm or you get a mechanical arm or a robot leg or things like that, the degradation of the player's character, maybe that should be emphasized a lot instead of just totally killing off the character. If it's a ship of yours, maybe it should get to the point to where your ship's components, your ship may not be useful. It may just be a memorial,
Yeah.
in your habitat. You may have had it for 5 years and it just got to the point to where it just got so damaged and lost so much hit points and you couldn't revive the hit points. It's something like you see right now when you get a level 3 injury and you can't use a certain tool, you have to go to a bed or something like that. Maybe there could be some part of gameplay that instead of totally killing off your character, it kind of resets the value of your character where you have to reestablish it back again. It could be in reputation, it could be in ship degradation or what have you, something like that.
Yeah.
Because if you do wipe off that character completely, you may in fact lose people interest in people playing that game. I mean, Dune has something like that now, not really, but if you get killed by a worm,
yeah, I heard. Yeah, it's gone. Yes, the one time you're gone. Yeah,
you're gone, and some pieces.
Bless the maker in his passing. Bless the maker in his passing.
And I may be quoted wrong for all the Doom players out there. I don't know, but there's some type of penalty in terms of getting killed by a worm, and something. I think it's 2 ways of a death in Dune. So they may want to think of something like that. How can it severely impair your ability to continue on playing the game while still allowing you to play the game? So
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, you left out the best part of the quote, Griff. It is appointed for man to die.
Hold
after that,
hold one second. Hold on 1 second. I know you guys are saying that the stream dad do a reset on your browser. My browser did the same thing, but I'm still seeing that we're live. Captain Jones.
Yeah, I'm still seeing that we're live too.
Yeah.
We're live.
Yeah, Captain Jones was giving us a heads up because I saw that the thing was acting weird. Check again. Let me see. Let us know if you guys are still getting us, right?
I am.
Because I saw that Twitch was doing something weird. Somebody in chat, let us know if we're still live with you guys. I want somebody in chat to do it, fastcart. Somebody in chat, please let me know. Because I want to see if other people are having the same problem. Nobody's saying anything. Okay, we got it.
There you go.
All right, cool.
Okay, there's a little error.
You said, yeah, it died, but it came back. Okay, thanks, gang. Appreciate it. Okay.
There was that pause, like, is anybody seeing this?
Yeah, right.
Then it kicked in.
Yeah, I know.
But no, I was saying you left out the best part of the scripture, which says it's appointed for man to die, and after that, judgment. Judgment.
I know, right.
So it depends on how you die in game. If you die messed up, I want some judgment. I want some consequence.
Very true. Very true. Thanks, folks, for checking in with us. Yeah, fastcart.
I hope that when 1.0 comes out, they change it so that it's like you have to use Alt or Control or Shift backspace instead of just backspace. Because right now, players are too used to just using backspace to get out of whatever they're trying to get out of. So, when 1.0 comes out, I hope they CID change the shortcut from backspace to using a modifier. Because, yeah.
No, I'll tell you, no, don't change it because then they'll learn. That's the only time you hit that key. That's the only time you hit that key. That's the only time you hit that key. No, that's the only time you ever hit the key is the backspace, and that's the only thing it's there for. So changing it to Alt, listen. Let me say this.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, and we talked about this again on Paul's show yesterday, and it's not unknown to a lot of us. Chris Roberts was very much inspired by Demon Souls. And for any of you all who ever played Demon Souls or Dark Souls or Elden Ring, you guys know that those games can be pretty punishing when it comes to death. Death is not an easy thing. And so that's why I asked, do you guys think that people are going to feel a certain kind of way? Because to your point, Fastcart, when they die, We don't know exactly what the number is going to be on lives. That's why they don't want a lot of lives to be there. But I watched the video from 3 years ago or 4 years ago when this subject came up again with Chris when he was on Calling All Devs, and he said 3 to 4 times of life. People have been talking about 10, 12, all this other stuff. He said 3 to 4. So all the other times you're getting capped, you get injured, you get hurt, you get disabled. There are certain situations where they said you will just die. Like if you get obliterated, like something happens, like somebody drops a bomb on you, that's a life gone. That's not no coming back type of stuff. Okay, that's not no level 1, level 2, level 3. You lost a life in that scenario. And to your point, Sirius, what is the value of life going to be once we get to that level, right? Where now I spent the last 8 months building my reputation up and I'm going to take a 20%, 30% hit and have to pay taxes and have to pay for the fee to come back. Right? It's going to cost me money. I mean, there's all types of stuff. If you got the insurance, all this other stuff that's going to take place, will people treat life differently at that point? You know, it's something that we're going to have to find out about. Yeah, FC.
For me, Griffin, I can see myself. This might maybe a FC specific thing, or maybe I'm in a small percentage or minority, but I can see myself trying to type something in a chat box, and then I decide to backspace to get rid of it, only to hit the mouse button outside the chat box, and then accidentally self-destruct or something like that. And I can see that happening for me. So I don't think I'm going to be the only one who's possible to have that make that mistake. I'm just saying
that's fair. That's fair. No, that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. I know, like even to something like either that or eject, you want to have something where people definitely know what they're doing when they do it. So I get what you're saying, you know. But my thing is just that backspace is
playing a game.
Yeah,
you know, we are playing a game, and so I want consequences, but I don't want the ultimate consequence. I don't want dying in the game to feel like dying in life, right?
Yeah.
But if there is a diminishment of my money and of my reputation and of my assets and things like that, that's they'll have to balance that. But I do want that. I want consequences. You know, I think that otherwise, you know, you don't have moments of meaning that add up to gameplay of meaning.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't have consequences.
Consequences too. Yeah.
So,
Zodaside, thank you so much for that comment or question I'm going to ask her. Radarid, thank you for the community sub. As always, my friend,
Big
appreciate
Rad.
you being here. Zodaside says, what's stopping someone in Star Citizen from using a second account to go full murder hobo while keeping their main account clean to fund it? Zodaside, that's actually what I do in my gameplay. My main character funds my quote unquote luxury, don't do no work character. And I send $1 million over there all the time to keep that account funded. What will keep it? What will keep it from happening will be some of the things that we alluded to earlier. CIG can put some guardrails in that have to do with a player's behavior. You'd be amazed at what they're able to monitor in the game. And that's everything from patterns to when we see exploits, all types of stuff doing it. If they're just running around killing people, I don't know that there's anything that CIG can do to them just because of that. But what they can do is start implementing things like the bounty system. You have to remember that the bounty system is not just going to be a situation where we as players can go after someone, but also when bounties go up, NPCs will go after them. If they are in lawful systems or systems that have certain rules, even if it's a gang like a lawless system like Pyro, if they have killed people who are part of a gang or have reputation with other groups, they will get bad reputation. They may not be able to land to refuel or may not be able to get repairs, or they may have to pay an exorbitant amount of money in order to do it. It's not that you're going to keep the person from playing, but what you are going to do is make their consequences to, if I'm going to play this style, and if they're willing to take those consequences, they can do it. If they're willing to pay some ridiculous amount of money, if they're willing to say that I know I can't go into this system or I can't land in this landing zone, that's the real thing, right? That's what they can do. But they want people chasing after them all the time or NPCs go, we don't want to remove it. We just want to say that if you make a decision, understand that there's going to be certain things, whether you're a good player, bad player, medium player, that the game responds in a way that's healthy. That's why I said it needs to stay within the context of the game, not like you just get kicked out and you lose everything. You know, I really want to see the game to be balanced in a way that allows that type of thing to happen. Okay, I think we got.
And
Yeah.
where I've seen it work well is where most of the time it is player on player, but there are spaces and places where the game just functions in a way where there will be no nonsense.
Yeah.
Right. So in Elite, you go into a station and you start acting up. The station can't be destroyed. Their guns can't be destroyed, and they kill you every single time.
Yeah.
So now that foolishness in that context is off the table for that game.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I would like to see some spaces and places where, you know, if you're a murder hobo and you pop up in Terra, then a squad of 16 very hard to kill or impossible to kill NPCs need to roll up on you and be like, not here, not today.
Yeah.
This is not the space for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I want to say something that I Got Pesos has here, which is kind of interesting. And I don't know if we may be on the same page or maybe we're on different pages. It says, here's the thing. Anything you do to one side will eventually come to you. So if you try to create consequences to murder hobos, eventually you will die and suffer those too. Well, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm saying that this isn't about consequences in a detrimental way. It's about consequences for your actions. And the consequence could be, and this is interesting because PvP, whenever people say PvP, they automatically think of combat. There's PvP on the level of trading, on a lot of other levels. It's player versus player. It's a competition. And so the idea that suffering is an issue, I didn't say anything about suffering. You know, okay. I know you said it's not directed at me, right? But right. Oh, I see what you're saying. For those who want hardcore consequences, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I think that there needs to be things. That's why I said I wanted to stay within the context of the game. You know what I mean? I don't want CIG to come up with something that is so harsh and rude that it literally makes somebody not play the game. I think that they need to be creative enough to create something so that person wants to come in and create chaos. They want to be a chaos maker, that there needs to be something that, you know, for every action, there's a reaction. But to come into a game where you can create chaos and nothing gets affected. Let me give you an example. We talked about this before in Eve, fastcart. When miners used to get attacked in Eve, let's say you were bringing in certain resources into a system. If you got blown up and killed, the prices of ships never went up. Nothing happened. Like if you were bringing in iron and metal and nothing happened in the system to say, well, now that because pirates are attacking the miners, the cost of ships have increased by 30%. That's the type of thing I want to see happen. You know what I mean? Where their impact affects the game in some type of way. CIG has kind of alluded to the fact that like if PvPers or people are doing something in certain areas, then maybe you'll get NPC police forces that'll come in. That's what I mean. I would love to see the game build out to create challenge in that area, but I don't want them to make it so restrictive that it becomes miserable. So I think we are on the same page. Yeah, we're on the same page with that one, you know. We're gonna Arcade. Arcade had you told us about the jury system where they would bring the person in and bring you to court.
Guys, really quickly, Arcade had a system where the players were actually involved.
Yeah.
If the person committed crimes, there were betrayals that person would leave. So that person committed crimes that would have you. And if you caught that person or what have you, then that person would go to jail and have to go to court. And the people that were the victims were actually on the jury. And they were in the courtroom while the NPC judge was giving the verdict and stuff like that. And it was the jury players who were victimized were the ones that decided if that person was innocent or guilty. And a tally was had. And if that person went to jail, they would suffer the consequence. It could be 24 hours. It could be a day. It could be 6 hours. They need to have that type of player-generated gameplay in game for that piece. And I would love Star Citizen for the rest of my life.
And you told me they'd be like cussing people out, telling them when I get out, I'm gonna kill your family.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill your family. It was great. It was fantastic. The role playing was amazing.
That's hilarious. All right. Well, once again, as it is appointed for man to die, you're going to die in Star Citizen. It's going to happen, right? But life goes on and on and on and on. You know, having the attitude that, you know, CIG is going to create this thing. And, you know, for us in Eve, it was clones. That was the way to continue your life in that game. You know, the cloning. And we have our own weird version of regen in this game for, you know, being able to come back. Personally, I don't know. Do you guys think that? Again, I'm going to follow up with this last question. Do you think that once these things are in place, and I'm going to just use 1.0 as an example because I think they need to be in place because according to CIG, they want 1.0 to be a state of the game where it's stable and that people can come back to it and play it and feel rewarded. Do you think that this system that they're going for the death of a space person or the way that we're going to deal with life and death in this game, do you think that this is going to be a good merging of ideas from other games that you've played? Do you think that this is going to be something that people are going to be cool with once it's in place? Or do you still have questions about it?
I think it'll be an adjustment. I mean, it's hard to say because we don't exactly know how it's going to be implemented in 1.0 specifically. Well, I mean, we can guess, we can theory craft, but how exactly it's going to be in 1.0, we don't exactly know. So this is just guessing, but I'm hoping CIG strike that balance, but the balance may not be good for 10% of the players. They've been decided it's not worth it, but I think the rest of the 90% that stays will be able to deal with it. So we have to see. I know that's a cop-out answer, but yeah.
Okay. Kelosal, are you feeling okay with the direction that they're talking about for 1.0 when it comes to how players play and interact with each other? Do you think that, because we've got some people who are they can't wait to role play. You've got some people who don't want to role play. They just want to be able to come in and do something for 30 minutes to an hour, get some satisfaction and leave. You've got some people who want to build, factories and warehouses and all that type of stuff. I mean, do you think that they're going to hit that mark, or do you think it's going to be a challenge? Because it is ambitious.
Well, in terms of Death of the Spaceman, I don't have an answer.
Okay.
Until they give us something, some type of clue on what they're going to do with that piece.
Mm-hmm.
All we're going to do is just be subjective,
okay,
and just speculate. And I hate speculating when it comes to video games because they
mm-hmm.
should have. It should be obvious, and it should be, we should know what direction they're going in. And in terms of Death of the Spaceman, we just don't know what direction they're going in.
Yeah.
So in that gameplay, I don't know. 1.0, I wish they would have some type of something implemented by 1.0 so we can know at least the direction that they could possibly be going in, and we could help them with that piece in terms of player interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Until then, we don't have anything at 4.2.1 or whatever they want to call it.
Right. Okay, that's fair. All right, Serious, what are your thoughts?
Life goes ever on and on down the road where it began.
Okay.
And that's Bilbo Baggins.
Yep.
And he was right. The idea of ultimately whether it's 16 cuts at it or 3 to 4, as Chris Roberts said, I will adjust
mm-hmm.
the investments that I make based upon whether I think it's likely that I'm going to lose everything. Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So this group has played games like PAX Day.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I look at the work that Kelosal and others put into building those castles. If I thought that they were going to go away, if I died twice, I ain't putting that work in.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not doing that. Right. I will build a 4 walls
mm-hmm.
and a cot for a place to put my head down, and it'll limit the type of experience that I have in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that CIG wants that. So
okay.
I think that the balance of systems that they'll have will be such that people will be able to hold on to. They want to see meaningful long-term investment. And so I think they'll build systems to encourage that. The other thing that I would finish with is MMOs tend to have a core group of players that, to a large extent, determine what the culture is in game. They determine what the norms are, the mores and the folkways. I'm not talking about when 1.7 years from then, right?
Mhm.
There will be retained a hardcore of players who will, for the most part, manifest what the norms are, right?
Okay.
And even if new players come in, then there'll be a certain player culture.
Mhm.
My hope is that the player culture is one that allows life to go on and on and on and supports that,
Mm.
right? And isn't the player culture that says, get good 5 seconds after coming in, right?
Mhm.
And which essentially is saying you're not welcome,
Yeah.
right? Which is not what I would want for people to join this community. So
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's fair. All right. We have hit all of the target marks for today. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. We do need to do a very quick public service announcement, as always. As you guys know, we have an event coming up called Quantum Vegas, and we're going to show you guys a quick video for that real quick and give you some updates. And then we're going to talk about what we have coming up next week. So just hang in there with us. I think we're going to show the video. I think we're going to show the video. Where's the video? Let's see. Here it is. Here it is. I think. Oh,
Quantum Vegas 2955 is a community celebration of the Star Citizen universe, uniquely designed to immerse attendees in the creative and technical brilliance of the game. Hosted in the unparalleled conference environment of Area 15 in Las Vegas, Nevada, this inaugural event offers direct access to developers from Cloud Imperium Games, influential community leaders, as well as other Star Citizen backers. This event offers interactive sessions with special guests covering the complexity of game development to community-driven experiences in a unique and intimate setting. Quantum Vegas 2955 is more than a convention. It's an immersive gateway into the Star Citizen legacy, an unmissable highlight on the gaming calendar. For tickets and information, visit quantumvegas.space and follow our social media on X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Quantum Vegas 2955, by the community, for the community.
Alrighty, that is Quantum Vegas. We have that coming up on July the 12th. We're just a couple weeks away, a little over 2 weeks, somewhere with 20 days, 19 days away. Not very far away, but we are looking forward to this event. We are so excited. We have so many cool things going to be happening. If you are able to meet us out there in Las Vegas, you are more than welcome to join us. Tickets are on sale. You can visit the website at quantumvegas.space. Folks from CIG are coming. Sandy Roberts is going to be there, co-founder of Cloud Imperium Games, along with Zylo, Tyler Whitkin, Sean Tracy. Galactica is going to be there. Then we have folks like Paul Shelley, who's going to be moderating and doing some conversation there. Sargem Grimm is going to be there doing a presentation. Nate Ellis from Natronics from EE Studios is going to be there doing a piece on machinima. And Ray from Daniel Raymond from Ray's Guide is one of our people. Is going to be doing the mission builder session. SeriousFun is going to be presenting. It's going to be a really, really great weekend. We're doing over $10,000 in giveaways that weekend. That Saturday. It's going to be great. So if you would like to join us, once again, check it out. quantumvegas.space. Fastcart's dropped it in there. If you'd like to donate to the event, which we could use because this is a pretty major endeavor that we're doing, there's also a QR code there if you'd like to just send a donation. If you can't make it, hey, a lot of people said, hey, I can't make it, but what can I do? That's one way that you could do it. So you can check that out as well. So thank you for that. Let's talk about what we've got coming up. Whoa, that's the wrong screen. Griff hitting the wrong button here today. Too fast cart, that's like hitting that backspace button. Hit the wrong one. All right.
Thank you. You see my point.
So,
That's what you should put up when you go ahead and shoot first and beg for forgiveness later.
I know.
You just been regen, Griffin. You just got regen.
I know. Next week, we have a show coming up called Playability. As most of you all know, we are reaching the 6th month of 2025, which is also halfway through the year, where CIG changed their cadence and said that they want to put much more energy and effort into Star Citizen being more playable. They're still providing content, but their emphasis is on stability of the game, performance of the game, fixing things that many of the backers for many years have said, hey, this is going too long. This needs to be fixed. Why is it still a problem? And so we're going to be doing an evaluation of how we feel about the direction that CIG has gone over the past 6 months, leading throughout the rest of this year. So hopefully you guys will be able to join us next week for our show next week called Playability. Is Star Citizen better in 2025? Serious, why don't you talk very quickly about Lore Lighthouse?
So Lore Lighthouse is our second show that I'm working to get off the ground when I can get my life together. And the plan.
You know what? Can I interrupt you for a second? Let's formally say, let's push this into July, because we're trying to get ready for Las Vegas, and it's just too much right now. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and let's shoot for. we're gonna push this back 30 days, y'all, because we know there's only one more weekend, and we want to keep it real. We don't want this. We really want this to launch really well. And Sirius has put some amazing stuff together for Laura. I was like totally blown away when he sent us some of the samples. So is July sound okay for you? Because we can officially say that to our folks so that they'll know. Or you want to go for August? Which one do you think?
I think this is something that we can do once we come back from Quantum.
Okay.
And I would love to launch it then. So let's plan for that.
All right. So we're going to plan for July, folks. So I know we've been talking about it. We're looking forward to it. So yes, it's definitely going to be very cool.
I can give folks, since they've been so patient, I will give folks a little hint and a heads up for being here tonight that the first show will be about the Tavarin or the Teverin, and what it meant for Ivar Messer of the Messer regime to come out of the Tavarin conflicts. So we will talk about that.
Okay, there you go. All right, so you got a little inkling. All right, y'all got a little inkling of what is to come, and I'm telling you, it's going to be presented in a very unique and different way, which like I said, when I saw it, I was like, oh, okay, you caught me on this one. I was not expecting you to go there. So I think it's going to be really, really cool. So look forward to that in July. We'll be getting ready for that. To fastcart, thank you for being here. Kelosal and Sirius, both who jumped into the wagon in the heat at the last moment, always come through for us. Thank you guys for being here as well. And thank you all for joining us today. We really, really appreciate you guys. Papadopoulos, thank you. Trip Rodriguez, thank you for the raids. We appreciate you guys. Shout out to Sinful. I know Sinful, you were out there earlier. We're still keeping up with you. You're doing a great job out there. We always support our ladies in the community because they need some love. They do some great stuff out there, and it's great to see the energy that they're bringing to the Star Citizen community. And other than that, thank you guys for being here. We are going to set up a raid for Feral Goblin Gal. She only has 3 people watching her. You all make her night for her. Go over there, see what she's doing, encourage her, say, hey, I don't know if she's new to the community or not, but with only 8 followers and 4 people watching, I'm assuming she's new to streaming. So when you get over there, let her know that you came over from the Soul Citizens. Show some love. If you'd like to follow her, do that as well. Don't forget to follow us on our social media. Don't forget to check out Quantum Vegas at quantumvegas.space. Even if you're just curious, check it out. We want to do this every year. Maybe next year you can come if you can't make it this year. But check it out. Send it to your friends. Let them know about it as well. And as always, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and peace, love, and soul. We'll see you soon. Ciao.